Welcome to ABG Finance, where finance and markets align. With half of the purpose of this channel being towards markets, equity markets, I thought it would be good to provide an understanding of, that base level. What is a market? How does a market exist? More specifically, the securities industry. So I want to make a very simple level summary of the securities industry and what I like to discuss as the three necessary ingredients of the securities industry. And then later on, I intend to make a deeper level summary of each of these ingredients separately. But I thought until I get to that point, this would be a beneficial video for those looking to gain an understanding of where they might be able to focus their own research in the meantime. So getting into this, the ingredients of the securities industry, you'll notice there are three main components. Each of these has equal weighting to the next. They are all very important. So we have the ingredient at the top, which is our financial intermediaries. We have our ingredient on the right, which is our financial instruments. And we have our ingredient on the left, which is the financial markets. So intermediaries are going to need instruments to trade, and intermediaries need markets to trade those instruments on. Okay, so that's kind of the basic why these three components matter and a very base level summary of how they operate. It's also worth noting that intermediaries serve no purpose without markets or instruments, because then they would have nothing to trade and nowhere to trade it even if they did. So essentially what I want you to think is that all of these three ingredients, right, are necessary for the other's survival. They're all important for each other. So moving on to the first ingredient, we'll start with the financial intermediaries. So the purpose here, a basic purpose, right? When you think of what a financial intermediary might be, you might think of a bank. So what does a bank do? Well, a bank's goal is to take capital from suppliers of capital and give it to borrowers of capital, right? So that's what we're going to see here. And this is kind of, I think, the standard case of thinking of what a financial intermediary is. So you have a supplier and you have a borrower of capital. The supplier has cash and the borrower wants a loan. This is where the financial intermediary comes in. So the financial intermediary is going to give our supplier of capital, cash, into the market, which is, well, I shouldn't say market, it's going to give it to the financial intermediary, which in this case is our bank. And then the borrower of capital is going to use those funds and by taking out different types of loans, cars, house, pay different expenses, etc. So there is also another factor to this worth noting, right? Because it's not just a straight exchange. There has to be value to all parties involved. So when your supplier puts cash to the financial intermediary, which in this case we're using a bank as an example, that bank gives loans to the borrower of the capital, right? So in turn, that borrower needs to pay something to the financial intermediary, the bank, to do so. The bank's not just going to give them money. So essentially, the same thing happens with the financial intermediaries to the supplier of capital. The financial intermediary has to give something of value to the supplier of cash for doing so, which is what we see next. So a borrower of capital is typically going to give, loan interest on the borrowing of the capital back to the bank, financial intermediary. And that bank or financial intermediary is going to give deposit interest, dividends, insurance, stock, there's a whole gamut of different options, back to the supplier as, their thank you for the upfront of the capital. So that's if we're thinking of financial intermediaries on, just in general terms, using a bank. What I want you to think of in our case is a more market-focused example where we're thinking of financial intermediaries as people who take capital from suppliers, then they exchange it in the market in the form of instruments that benefit the suppliers. So to show this, right, we know we have a person, and that person has cash. They give that cash to the financial intermediaries. What happens on the back end of that cash is the financial intermediary, or in this case, we're not thinking bank, we're going to think of, let's think of an investment dealer. That person, and of course this investment dealer could work for a bank, but we're just thinking investment dealer is our middleman. So that's who we're paying our cash to, right? And that person is going to take our cash and they're going to take a cut of it. So their profit is going to go to themselves, right? So they're going to take a management fee as the dealer's profit. And they're also going to take a cut of that cash from you, the supplier, and it's going to cover operational costs. So you might be thinking again, okay, in the terms of this example, we're giving cash to our investment dealer, the financial intermediary. We know that the investment dealer is taking their cut and they're going to spread it across dealer profit and operation costs. But what do we get? Right? So that leaves us questioning what's next for us. What do we get back? And we know on the previous slide, with the discussion of banks, in that example, right, it could be a whole gamut of things, the dividends, interest, standard payments, whatever it may be. And in this case, what are we getting from our investment dealer? That's where the second ingredient comes in, financial instruments, right? And what are the purpose of the financial instruments when we're talking about markets? Financial instruments provide a means for individuals to use their capital through. So that gives people the opportunity, the suppliers of capital, to buy, sell, hold, hedge the different instruments that fit their money goals. So again, let's go back to our existing example. Excuse me. We have cash going to our investment dealer. We know what the investment dealer is going to do. They're going to take a bit of profit as cut and pay the rest operation expenses, costs. And we're wondering what we get back. So that's where the financial instruments come in, because your financial intermediary, your investment dealer, is going to take your cash. They're going to use that cash and they're going to buy your financial instrument. In buying your financial instrument right here, they're taking their cut as profit, and they're also taking a cut to pay operation costs. But you are the one who gets the financial instrument. So the investment dealer takes your cash, they buy a financial instrument, and in turn that financial instrument finds its way back to you. So that is your benefit to being the supplier of capital when we're talking about an investment dealer and market. The final component is the financial market itself. So this is ingredient number 3, right? So ingredient 1 was financial intermediaries. Ingredient 2 was financial instruments. And so here, ingredient 3, financial markets. And what is the purpose of a market? So the market provides the financial intermediaries with a centralized marketplace to deal the financial instruments. So see how everything's coming together? These financial markets can be known as exchanges, and they operate on strict regulation and policy. So again, we're going to pull up our example. We've got person A. They have cash. They give it to the financial intermediary or the investment dealer. That investment dealer takes their cut 2 ways. and they buy the financial instrument, and that's where their cut comes in. The management fee for buying us our financial instrument with the cash we supplied to them. So again, what happens next? How do the financial markets play a role? Well, the financial intermediary, when they buy that financial instrument, it has to come from somewhere, right? It doesn't just come out of thin air. So they seek financial markets or exchanges to go into, right? That's where they're going into the financial market, they're grabbing a financial instrument, they're taking it out, and that's the financial instrument that finds its way to you, right? So that's what we see here. So again, you've got the cash, you give it to your investment dealer takes their cut for the management of buying you your financial instrument. To get the financial instrument, they go into the financial markets, the exchanges, they come out of it with your financial instrument, whatever that may be, right? Stock, bonds, options. That works its way back to the investment dealer, which is given to you as your benefit for supplying the capital to allow all of this to happen. The other thing worth noting, though, and this is where I want to get into the more higher level thought with a more focused view on each, because each of these is very complex. There's a lot more to it than what I've just gone over here. But for all of this to happen efficiently, there also has to be another side to this trade, right? When you go to a market, you're buying something or selling something or getting something, so someone has to be giving something, right? There has to be another side to it. So that's where person B comes in, and that's where you get the efficient market, okay? So you have your person A is trying to do the exact same thing with their investment dealers that person B is trying to do with their investment dealers or financial intermediaries, okay? The whole point of financial markets, financial instruments, financial intermediaries is to give, credibility and purpose and ultimately efficiency to what is the security industry. So I will try and get into these videos in more depth later on, going over each one and exactly what each one is. But as always, for now, thanks for stopping by, and keep on keeping on.